Hello everybody, my name's Star Raptor. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It's directed by Gareth Edwards and it stars Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Donnie Yen, Jiang Wen, Riz Ahmed, Alan Tudyk, Mads Mikkelsen, Ben Mendelsohn, and Forrest Whitaker. So unlike any other Star Wars movie out there, this is the very first standalone Star Wars story, so you can't expect to see any Skywalkers unless you count Darth Vader. There's going to be no Jedis in this movie. It's all about the rebels stealing the plans to the Death Star. And, while that is a very generalized idea of the movie, basically it involves a lead scientist on the Death Star project named Galen Erso, and he's kind of been abducted from his family to continue the research for this super weapon by the director Krennic. So Galen Erso has his daughter Jyn Erso, who's still out there and about, and the rebels get her, and she's basically the key to helping them get Galen Erso to stop this Death Star. And we all know how the story ends with the plans in the hands of the rebels, but along the way there's a lot of twists and turns that keep this movie very, very awesome at all times. So getting into some positives, I want to talk about the ensemble cast. So we had quite a bit of recognizable Hollywood names in this, like Mads Mikkelsen just came off of Doctor Strange. We got Ben Mendelsohn, Forrest Whitaker, and Oscar-nominated Felicity Jones. So this is the great thing about the Star Wars standalone movies, is because we're going to get bigger talent doing these movies, because these actors aren't necessarily going to be doing a 10-year trilogy, kind of like the prequels. You're contracted, so I think we're going to see a lot more better, well-known actors to make really, really great movies. But that being said, I specifically really liked the chemistry between all the rebel characters. I felt like these characters, by the end of the movie, you really cared about these guys. They all had like an important part to play in this story. You really got attached to them. Especially if you guys read Star Wars Catalyst. I reviewed that on my channel. It's basically a book about the Urso's relationship with Krennic. So having read that, I was even more attached. I highly recommend you guys read that before you go see it. But it only enhances it. You don't have to read that. Moving on, something else I really liked about the story was the amount of gray characters we had. Usually when we think of Star Wars, it's, the Sith and the Jedi, the dark and the light side. It's very black and white with the villains and heroes. There's not much in between there. But with the gray characters, we had some things the rebels were doing that you kind of question, like, this is a wartime. They're going to have to do some things to get above the Empire. The Empire has pretty much unlimited resources, so the rebellion, they have to be very stringent, and they have to sometimes do things that are questionable to kind of stay ahead of the curve. Moving along from that, I really, really think ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, did an incredible job again with this movie. They did something groundbreaking that I don't want to spoil, but it was something I've never seen happen in a film before, and they are pioneers. They've done this with the original Star Wars, and they did something here that I didn't think they would do, and it just turned out for me. It really was awesome. I really, really liked the big space battle at the end. You really feel like you're in there in the ships with the first person camera angles, and just the speed and the velocity at which it looks like everything's moving. I felt like I was there kind of like in a video game, and helping lend itself to that was the awesome job with the cinematography on this movie. It was one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen, especially for a Star Wars film. The vistas, basically all the Death Star shots were just something I've never seen before, something that was just really, really just branched out and just really was awesome. Something I really want to talk about too is the gritty war aspects of this movie like we've never seen before. Now, we knew that there was talent from Saving Private Ryan, Zero Dark 30, Black Hawk Down, and they really delivered it. They really delivered this gritty, dark war film. Especially in the later half of the movie, you can definitely feel the intensity. Sand, explosions looked amazing. Gareth Edwards was filming most of this movie on his shoulder. It kind of has a shaky effect where you really feel like you're up close and personal, at head level with what's going on, looking up at the walkers. You feel like you're really there. And lending itself to that is the new locations. So Scarif is this planet that's this tropical planet, and I love the fact that it looks so beautiful, but there is so much death, put with that planet with this last act. This big battle, and you have the walkers walking through the water. You have stormtroopers wading through the water. Images we've never seen, but wow, are they just spectacular. And another location I really liked was the planet of Jeddah. So it's this Mecca of the Jedi, and it's got like kind of like a Middle Eastern kind of art style. You got a lot of like grays and browns and neutral colors, and just the way that the civilization is kind of like that. It's just a really cool place because it's actually a desert, but it's really, really cold. So yes, we have another desert planet, but at least they're making it a little different by having some sort of something we don't associate, a cold desert. And speaking of Jeddah, I want to get into something I want to talk about, because as I mentioned at the top of this video, yes, there are no Jedi, but that doesn't mean the Force isn't explored. And I really appreciated the more depth part of this movie was going into the mythos of the Force. So not just the Jedi study the Force, but there's all these other types of people that aren't necessarily Force sensitive, but they do understand the feelings of everything around them, and how it all comes around you with the Force. You got the characters like Chirrut Imwe, and Baze Malbus, who are these guardians of the Wills. The Wills is this other kind of religion, apparently. And specifically, I want to talk about Chirrut because he's kind of not really Force sensitive, but because he's blind and he can actually fight, and I guess the Force flows with him. And he has this awesome line where it says, "I am one with the Force is with me," or something of that caliber. I might have mixed it up, but that, to me, he has this mantra going through, and it is just something very, very powerful. So I really liked how Gareth Edwards really expanded on the lore of everything with the Force. Moving on, I want to talk about the music by Michael Giacchino. So this is another monumental thing for Star Wars, is that this is the first movie that it isn't, scored by John Williams himself. So we have a fan of John Williams, Michael Giacchino. You might know him from Jurassic World and a lot of the Pixar movies, The Incredibles. He did a great job with this score. It really felt warlike. You had a lot of timpanis. There's this great new Imperial kind of theme. Jyn has her own theme, and he really did a great job with kind of bringing in like little motifs from the original 1977 Star Wars to kind of accent certain moments in the film that really added that extra emotional impact. So I really like that. This is the first standalone movie. I understand why they're not going to have John Williams do every one of these movies, because he is getting up there in age. I like how they kind of keep John Williams to the episodic films to make them that more special, but I definitely approve of Michael Giacchino score, and hopefully the next few standalone movies coming through, because this guy knows his stuff. He's a big Star Wars fan himself, so I have a lot of faith that this guy, he's going to carry on to do great Star Wars films besides this one. I also want to touch upon the fact that, yes, we do know how the story ends, but just the way they get there, the pacing, it was great. There was a lot of twists and turns, a lot of cliffhangers, stuff happening. I was like, wow, this is a ride like I've never thought I would have gotten from this movie. And I like the fact that the story kind of, you're kind of introduced to Jyn and her family, and it starts off on a very individualistic kind of personal level, and as the movie progresses, it slowly starts building up, and when you get to that climax, guys, it is unreal. It's the galaxy's at stake at that point, and it really does a great job with Gareth Edwards kind of slowly building us to that point. The greatest thing about this movie, in my eyes, is how it ties together not just A New Hope, but all these other things in the canon of Star Wars. There's lots of great characters from Revenge of the Sith. So you got Bail Organa, you got Mon Mothma, who was actually only in a deleted scene, so they're bringing that actress back. So you got those connective tissues. Then you got, Saul Guerrera, who was in a couple episodes of Clone Wars, so, they're helping us fans of the Clone Wars getting some characters in there. Then you even got some things, little Easter eggs from Rebels, which I won't spoil, so yes. And then, of course, A New Hope, and just, I'm not going to spoil again, but just the way this thing connects with A New Hope was just something I never expected to be that good, and I'll never watch A New Hope the same way again. It enhances that story. I never even knew like we needed this story, this Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars. So I didn't know we ever needed that, but after watching it, I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna watch A New Hope the same way again. And not only that, but this really had a great message. At the end of the day, you know, hope. Hope is something that we can cling on to and help us get through some tough times. And that really hit me emotionally. And just the fact that anybody can make a difference. Again, not just Jedi, Luke and Anakin, like any foot soldier, any little person, they can actually change the way the galaxy is from here on out. And just it was just something that hit me harder even than The Force Awakens as far as leaving a message. As much as I am praising this film, there are some little nitpicks I will mention. First off, on the negative side of things, Krennic, I felt he could have used maybe one more scene with Galen just to give us a little more of that backstory of how him and Krennic have been buddies and how Krennic has been, you know, kind of pushing him down this road that he didn't want to go. I thought that was great. I mean, Krennic and him were great already. In that very first scene, you could feel the chemistry between those two actors. It really worked. Especially, I think it's just because I read Catalyst. I was hoping to see a little bit more of them after reading so much of them in a book. But again, that's just a little nitpick. And something else I want to say is there was a certain little scene on Jeddah of you know, Jyn and Cassian running into these two people we might have seen in another film. I thought that was a little jarring because it was so on the nose with how they interacted. I was like, maybe that was a little bit too much. Again, a little nitpick, and a nitpick they were because, guys, I'm going to score Rogue One, a Star Wars Story a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, this movie, I will say right now, it's right up there, right behind Empire Strikes Back in my ranking of Star Wars films. So this is like in the top 3, somewhere like that right now. I want to say the first time I seen this movie, mind you, I've seen it 3 times already at this point of recording this, and I will see it again. After the first viewing, guys, I like literally just couldn't move, kind of thing. Like I was just sitting there like, holy crap, did that just happen? Because pretty much the last 30 minutes of the movie were just unreal. Specifically the last, I don't know, 5 minutes, and just how it ties into A New Hope. It was just, holy crap, that was incredible. You know, whenever I feel like that coming out of a movie, it's something special because that doesn't happen much. But, you know, that night, that very first night, I never thought I would feel that way more than I did than The Force Awakens. But I did. So yes, that's how I have to grade this thing. 9.5 out of 10. This is great, guys. You gotta go check out Rogue One, a Star Wars Story. I know some of you might have not liked The Force Awakens, but I think you should give this one a chance. Disney is doing it right, guys. I know people are saying, oh, Disney is Disneyfying Star Wars. Well, after watching this movie, and again, I'm not spoiling it, but you'll understand that they're letting Star Wars do their own thing however they want to do it. And I'm very happy with this. This bodes very well for the future of the standalone films. We got Han Solo coming out in 2018 and something else after that. So, yeah, Star Wars, and this is killing it in the box office now. So Star Wars has never been better, guys. That's going to do it for my review of Rogue One, a Star Wars Story. I hope you enjoyed it. I also have other Star Wars content on my channel. I do a weekly Star Wars show called This Week in Star Wars Canon, where I actually talk about all the comics and novels, Rebels TV show every week. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode of that. I'm Star Raptor, guys. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So, did you like the video? Then make sure you rate it a thumbs up, and if you did that, go over there, hit that Star Raptor head to subscribe to my channel. Doing so will keep you up to speed on all of my latest content, speaking of which you can see a couple of my recent uploads down below. I'm also on social media, so what are you waiting for? Let's start nerding out!